to $3.70.
Okay. And remind me what those support levels actually tell us.
Right. So basically, those are the prices where the token has tended to bounce back in the past. Remember the dip we talked about? It actually bounced right off that $4.80 support. So that's generally considered a positive sign.
Okay, so those are the levels to watch on the downside. What about on the upside? Where might we see some resistance?
Well, resistance could kick in around $6.55 to $7.05, and then potentially even higher at $7.75 to $8.20.
Okay, so those are the price points to keep an eye on. What about those squiggly lines on the charts? The moving averages. What kind of clues are those giving us?
Ah, yes, the moving averages. So looking at the 50-day and the 200-day moving averages, it seems like IP is still in a bullish trend, at least in the short term. But it's important to remember these are just indicators, not guarantees. The crypto market is notoriously unpredictable, as we all know.
No crystal ball, huh? Okay, well, I have to ask because I know everyone wants to know. What about those price predictions? Any juicy numbers you can share with us?
Well, let's start by saying that no one has a crystal ball, unfortunately. But looking ahead to 2025 and beyond, there's a huge range of possibilities. Some analysts are super optimistic, others are more cautious, and then there are those who are somewhere in between.
All right, well, give us the good, the bad, and the maybe somewhere in between.
Okay, so on the optimistic side, some analysts are predicting IP could hit highs of $9.21 to $13.46 by the end of 2025. And some even bolder predictions go as high as $30. But that's assuming a lot of things go right, like widespread adoption and a strong recovery in the crypto market overall.
Okay, so big potential upside, but what about the flip side? What if things don't go as smoothly as some are hoping?
Right, well, on the more cautious side, some forecasts put IP at lows of $3 to $3.45 in 2025. And then there's a more moderate view, which suggests an average price between $4 and $7.50.
Okay, so a pretty wide range there. And what about if we look further out, 2026, maybe even 2030? What are those predictions looking like?
So looking further out to 2026, predictions range from $5.39 all the way to $21.55.
Wow, okay. So still quite a spread there. And what about 2030? Any wild guesses?
For 2030, honestly, those long-term predictions are more like shots in the dark. Some analysts are throwing out numbers like $50 to even $141, but you got to take those with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it's hard to predict what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone a decade from now.
Exactly. It's important to remember that these long-term predictions are based on a lot of assumptions. Assumptions about the growth of the entire blockchain-based IP management space, the regulatory landscape, and just the overall adoption of Web3 technologies in general. There are a lot of moving parts.
A lot of ifs, as you said earlier. All right, well, with all that in mind, the question on everyone's mind is, of course, should you invest in IP right now? What's